Welcome to the Fence and Deck Mastery Podcast, where we discuss cutting-edge techniques, industry trends, and business insights to take your fence or deck company to the next level and dominate your competition. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Alex Danner, and also the founder of Fence and Deck Marketers, which is a marketing agency that works only with fencing and decking businesses. And today I have a really exciting episode for you. I have the owners of an extremely successful decking business, but as of fairly recently, they've released a custom software that we'll be talking about and stuff that they really needed inside their business. We'll be diving into that a lot today. Today I have Brian Miller and John Gwaltney from Outback Deck and DeckMetriX. So Brian, John, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. How you guys doing?
Thanks for having us, Alex. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Looking forward to it.
Yep, me too. And I actually met Brian and John at Deck Expo this year, which was at the time of recording, I think 2 weeks ago. I think so. And it may have been last week. I can't keep track of time, but we had booths that were actually pretty close together and got to talking. We had a pull-up bar there. So we had some people that were coming and trying that. And I don't know if Brian did. I know John tried it, but we'll have to get Brian on there the next time. But
I was pretty busy, man. If you remember the booth.
Yeah, it was a zoo in there, but it was a great time, and I had a great time talking with them, and I got a firsthand look at DeckMetriX, and I figured it'd be great to bring them on and kind of learn about it and learn about their story a little bit too. So we're going to be learning about Outback Deck and what they were able to build there. A really big successful company out around the Atlanta area. And then after that, we'll kind of learn about DeckMetriX too. But Brian, John, if you could just kind of, introduce yourself, maybe talk about the story, anything leading up to Outback Deck, kind of how you got into that business. And then, any kind of history you have with Outback Deck would be great. I'm sure everyone would love to know about that as well.
So, back in the downturn of the economy in 2008, I was running a remodeling firm here in Atlanta, and as most remodelers or as most contractors, a lot of my projects at the time were sort of push the back of the house out, do a big addition, maybe do a kitchen remodel on the lower part of the home, and then maybe a master bath or something on the upper part of the home. Many of the homes here in sort of the East Cobb, Southern Cherokee area of the Atlanta market were built in the late 80s, early 90s. And so a lot of the homes were in bedroom communities, and they weren't like sort of houses we see today. They weren't open concepts and things like that. So lots of walls, lots of smaller spaces. And so when the downturn occurred, I had probably 4 or 5 projects on the books. 3 of them were open projects, and they were all bank funded, right? So they were $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 projects, and they were bank funded. And immediately the funds dried up, and immediately my business disappeared almost overnight. So in that timeline, it sort of was this idea of, I'm not going to let this happen to the company. We're not going out of business. So I started knocking doors. I started ringing doorbells. I started calling my previous customers and just, hey, we can do for you whatever you'd need us to do. If you have anything you need done, you want me to paint a wall in your kitchen or do a recoat on your deck or fix your guardrails or whatever it might be, we were going to do it. And so we did. And during that time, many of my customers had us come out and do cleaning coats on their decks or ask to reface something or fix the stair. And it became apparent to me that maybe there was a good business there. I had not been in the decking industry per se. We'd done some projects on homes, but not been in the decking industry. So I decided to start. And in the course of about 2 or 3 months, the business very quickly showed itself to be an exceptional opportunity in my market. We very quickly booked 20 or 30 projects, and then we got into doing builds. And within about a year and a half, the business really stood up and became ultimately what is today Outback Deck. And at that time, John was a competitor of mine. He was doing siding and windows, and I was doing deck and outdoor living and some internal remodeling. But we really didn't know each other. We were in a networking group together. And so I think I did a marketing stand-up one day, and John came up after. He's like, hey, we should get a coffee he needed some space. He was working out of his home after the downturn, and I had a small office. Turns out that office was a block from his house. And so he came over and took up some space in there to help cover some of the expenses and just to get his business out of the house. And, as the story sometimes goes, the rest is history. It was a little bit rocky at the beginning, just trying to put everything together and just work together and help each other. But we eventually figured out that we were better together than separated. I'm a sort of sales and marketing kind of a guy. John is a ops and finance guy. We both can do both those things, but those were sort of our strengths. And so it became clear to us that two are better than one, and using our strengths to help the business was better. So I'll let him give some more of the color to the story, but that's sort of how we got together and how things sort of started.
Yeah, my background is I did not come from construction. I had a little bit of a white collar background and in medical, and just realized one day that's not where where I wanted to be. Um, Ended up in Atlanta, working for a relative, and they did siding claims on all the bad siding out there. You've heard of Masonite and LP and things like that. And then in 2004, I decided, well, someone needs to start replacing all this stuff in Atlanta. And so that kicked it off. I went out and started. I had a list of people who I knew had received money for bad siding, and went and started soliciting and just saying, hey, do you need someone to replace it? So that's how I ended up in the construction industry. Always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I did the lift. I didn't know. I worked it all out, knocked doors, put out flyers on doors, just generating business. And then, but things went pretty well pretty quickly. I ended up, probably by 2006, I was doing a couple $1 million and of projects, and did my first deck. I was pretty classic guy. Like, I just wasn't going to say no to anything that anybody asked. I didn't do anything inside the house, but I did everything outside the house. And so we did our first deck and did that just on and off, probably 4 or 5 a year for the next few years. And as Brian said, the big downturn of 2008 and 9 happened, and the only reason I didn't get wiped out is I didn't carry any debt. And so I was able to make it through that. Much like Brian, also had jobs that were on the books went away. So we've experienced that. It's a tough time. We did 18 and 19-hour days. Like everyone else, running a business in the day and running estimates at night, right? And in between, kissing your kids goodnight. And so we did just as Brian said. We ended up sharing some office space, and sort of organically, through some circumstances, we ended up just sort of helping each other out in jobs and learning from one another. And Brian had a background he didn't talk about in selling franchises. And so one of the things that we kept talking about was, I think there's an opportunity in outdoor living. I love the name Outback Deck. I thought that and the tagline of Life Happens Outback was tremendous. Man, that's marketable. I think we should put that forward. And Brian was like, well, let's just build the system. No matter what we do, build the system. And so for the next 5 years or so, that's what we did. We documented everything, began to grow pretty extensively. But one thing that was really important to both of us during that time was we both had kids at home, and work-life balance was really important. So we started asking the question, how can we get more time back? We started investing in that. We went to some conferences and learning how to do time management better, and then also how do you expand the business while you don't give up your life. And we started implementing those things. That went really well. And then we started really growing. We got to about $7 million, pretty profitable. We were enjoying life. We were taking 10, 12 weeks off a year. We were in a really good run. And then COVID happened. And my kids had just gotten out of the house. My son graduated. He was a COVID graduate from college in our kitchen. That May he was graduating. But one of the other things that happened is we ran a classic contractor two-step process. We'd go out, we'd meet the homeowner, and we would look at the project and come back. We would design it, we would price it, and then we'd go meet with the homeowner and say, here's what we do. And we did projects from Probably the smaller size was in the 25 or 30, but our average ticket was 60 or 70, and it wasn't uncommon for us to do multiple six-figure projects. So most of them needed some type of design process. But what happened in COVID was no one wanted us to come back. That was a pretty significant moment for us. It, no, absolutely no one wanted us to come back and give them a presentation. And so we tried Zoom for a little while. That was not something that was excellent for us. And we had learned a long time ago that giving an estimate through an email just wasn't going to win long term. And so we began to try and figure out how we could move into what we call a one sit, or just be able to give someone a price the same day we were there. A few years before that, we had started building out a pricing tool. Actually, I think Brian, you probably could tell the story best. It was maybe even all the way back in 2012. You started trying to figure out how to price it easier.
Right. Yeah. So when I started running the deck business, and sort of leaning in all in on deck, I was a single owner operator, working out of my house, and I had a truck, and I had a couple of teams, and it was actually a team of 6 guys. And so I could split them into 2 groups, or I could keep them together for larger projects. And what began to happen, Alex, was I just couldn't keep up. I would I would do something on radio, and I would get 35 or 40 calls in 15 minutes. And they would all come to my cell phone. And I did not have a way to manage the amount of calls that I was receiving. I did not have a way to see all of those people. And I did not want to have a reputation that got tarnished by being the guy who couldn't return calls and who couldn't schedule appointments and couldn't come out and serve you if you wanted my help. And so I had to figure out a way to get to price faster. At the time, I was working on a project that was less than a mile from where I lived. And the gentleman I was working for was he was a Excel genius guru. He was a software guy at the time. And so he worked in a lot of software. But while we were doing his outdoor living project, we would hang out and chit chat. And he needed his kitchen remodeled, which we were also in the business of doing. And so I kind of said to him, "Hey, James, would you think that you could be willing to help me, like, take the code requirements and the things that I know about code and safety and figure out how to put this into a spreadsheet where I could get a price quickly that was pretty accurate and give it to the homeowner on site?" And he's like, "I think we could do that in Excel." So we started down this journey of building this spreadsheet. And initially, it was bourbon and cigars in the evenings while we were doing the kitchen. And he would sit across from me, and I would explain the code to him, and he would bang out these algorithms, right? And over the course of, I don't know, 4 months or whatever, we built the sheet, and I started using it, and it changed my life. It allowed me to give a price on the site. It allowed me to use a little one pager and click through and show it to the homeowner, and then get a yes, and then print it, have them sign a copy, me keep a copy, and I could get a job. And so fast forward, as we started to use that tool in the business in 2012, 2013, 2014, it started breaking. When you give an Excel sheet to people, you need to make sure it's locked down, and you need to make sure everything gets protected. And unfortunately, there were holes in some of those security features. And so stuff started happening to it, and I was fixing it and touching it up, but it became pretty quickly apparent that it wasn't going to be enough in the state that it was in to keep going. So I hired a PhD mathematician, and she helped me build that sheet into essentially a 47-page document with all the algorithms and everything in the background. And we used that tool until about 4 years ago in the business. And then fast forwarding through that last 4 years, we started trying to make it better and trying to figure out how to lock it down and trying how to simplify it. And then just made the decision about 18 months ago, we're going to have to turn this into software. We have 8 sales guys now. It's just not possible to keep this up of managing it every week. And then when price changes come, or we need to do something different, you had to put a kill switch on it where at the end of every week it would go away, and then you had to send a new one out to everybody. It just wasn't manageable in a scaling business. And so we efforted to try to figure out how to make it into software. And doing that is not a simple business. If you are a contractor, like I was, like John was, even though I have business background and everything else, I was not a software guy. So I didn't really know what that meant. So, we very quickly built an MVP, which is the acronym for minimum viable product. And we took the sheet and essentially turned it into a sheet that it lives in the cloud and it worked in the cloud. And the spreadsheets and everything, all the algorithms, everything are in the background, but you can go in and you can put the information in online and it's always protected. And if you make a change, it passes to everybody and you can change it often enough, etc. So we launched that in the third quarter last year, end of the third quarter last year, early fourth quarter of 2024. And my guys started using it here and it really changed our life. It gave the guys a lot more speed to price. We were able to integrate that with some other software that we were using to do a digital signing and some other things. So we could do it all in the house. And we took our sort of two-step process and turned it into a one-step process, which was an 18-month transition. That's a whole different podcast if you want to talk about that. But it was painful. And I lost some of my sales team. I lost some other good people, and it was hard. It was hard on me. It sent me into a tailspin of just trying to learn how to do things and learn how to be a different kind of business. A two-step process is a different business model than a one-step process. And a lot of guys don't have any process, right? So we had a really good process. It just was not working, and we weren't able to serve enough people. So as we have built the second version here, now it's far more capable. It doesn't look anything like the first version. It's not sort of simply based on the spreadsheet idea. It's actually got database in the background. It's got lots of features and benefits, and it's got the rest of those other tools that we were using outside of the MVP. Digital signing, sketching, bill of materials are all built into the software, and they all flow from each other. So pretty quickly now, where even with the old tool, it would take us probably a half hour to get the pricing in and another 15 minutes to put the proposal together and all that. We can do all of that in less than 5 minutes in front of the homeowner and get to a price, good, better, best, that we can sit down and talk to the homeowner about. We also integrate monthly payment plans into that. So we have financing options and payment plan options that the guys can offer. So we're no longer talking about $30, $40, $50, $60,000 project. We're talking about $300, $400, $500, $600 a month. And that has also made an impact on the business. Wholly 85% of the jobs that we now do in our Outback business are financed projects. They're between $7,000 and $10,000 more cost, because we are upselling a lot more products. And so when you start to see a $7,000 to $10,000 swing in your average job size or average ticket, makes a real impact on your bottom line, especially if you're doing 200, 300, 400 projects a year like we are at Outback. So John can tell you a little bit more about how that's impacted us on the business side, but the tool has really helped us to scale the sales side of the business, which is what most deck builders really need first. Yet if you don't have a sales issue, then you have not created any other issues in the business. If you solve your sales issue, you create problems. I need more crews. Now I need a production system. Now I need better financials. And now I need leaders to help me lead the organization. But without creating an issue for yourself, selling more, you don't really end up there. So, a big part of what we have done in Outback over the years is put systems and processes in place as we've grown so that we can serve more people. And DeckMetriX really has helped to allow us to have the sales and the sales revenue and sales volume to scale the company up. So,
okay. So basically, to kind of summarize, so you guys started just basic spreadsheets, and then that didn't work. Then you had to hire that, I think you said, a mathematician. That was how you kind of scaled it up a little bit, and then that broke. And then that's when you kind of realized you needed a solution like DeckMetriX, which is what we've been talking about. So I guess I'm trying to think of like, because I know there's, I guess to give clarity to everyone listening, um, maybe kind of talk about like maybe the process a little bit, so like if you're, starting from the beginning to the end, kind of how it helps, who needs it, where it's helpful, that kind of thing. Maybe create kind of like, a timeline or a workflow, something like that, to go through the steps so people can understand, like how it works from beginning to end and be able to see how they could plug it into their business if it would work for them, that kind of thing.
Sure. Sure. So if the average contractor probably spends somewhere between 2 and maybe as much as 6 or 7 hours by the time they drive to the homeowner's house, do a meeting with the homeowner, or do a phone call on the front end to qualify, then come back to their shop or their home and do a sketch or a drawing, do a hand takeoff, get all the numbers together, get in touch with their local lumberyard or dealer and get the pricing back, and then put all that in some kind of a proposal or an email and send it over to the homeowner, or maybe they go back and they meet the customer. It just depends. But in general, when we talk to contractors, and we have been talking to contractors for 20 years because we're in lots of different groups out there with other contractors, the average contractor is typically spending 2 to 7 hours. Probably in the deck business, it's more like 3 to 5, 6 hours for a guy to get to a price that he can, and then a proposal that he can put in front of a homeowner. There are plenty of guys that do it faster, and there's other tools in the market, other CRMs and other things that guys are using to help them get to price. And lots of guys are getting to price using square foot, linear foot. And that's a very fast way of doing things. But DeckMetriX is not just about doing things rapidly. It's about accuracy and having a price that you can put in front of a homeowner that you can trust is the right price. So when you start thinking about what the tool is built for, it's built for sort of this time in the process when you're talking to the homeowner of, if I go to visit the customer so I can look at the back of their house and see what they want built, whether I pre-qualify or I don't, I'm standing with the homeowner. At that point, I need a system and a process that allows me to go from, tell me what it is that your problems are, how you want to solve those problems, what the products are that you really like, and what kind of a budget you might have, or ideas about what you think that might cost, so that I can start to show you products, tell you how we're going to solve those problems, walk through that with you, have a good conversation about how we are a good solution for you as a company, and then be able to put a price together for whatever those things are that we discussed very quickly. So Contractor Classroom is one of our programs that we've put in place for deck builders to teach them how to take what they do as a deck builder, their differentiators. How do we build it? What products do we use? What is the experience going to be like? What is the culture of our company, and how are we going to serve you well? What are our licenses and what are our certifications, right? And stitch that into the front end of that conversation when we're standing in the yard or sitting at the kitchen table with the homeowner. You also then need a defined sales process. I'm gonna do a deck inspection. I'm gonna sketch this out and show the customer what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna demo products and show them the different products that they can use to solve the issues. Once I've done all that, I need a place to put all that information. This is where DeckMetriX comes in. So DeckMetriX is this place where I can do the sketching in the tool. I can lay it out. I can put landings and stairs. I can do multiple decks on the canvas. I pick the 3 decking products and the 3 guardrail products, the fascia skirt boards, lighting packages, and other things that I want. And pretty instantaneously, once I've done those things, because my materials pricing and my labor pricing is loaded in the back end of the system in a secure area, I can click a button and I can get to price this deck board, this guardrail, option 1, option 2, option 3. I can get a price and the monthly payment options, as many as I'd like to give to the homeowner, right there sitting at their kitchen table in less than 3 minutes. Then I can have a conversation with the homeowner about what's on the screen. I can easily make changes to that and manage that by duplication and other features that the software has that quickly allow me to do a different type of drawing or design or change the products and rapidly price very accurately what that stuff looks like. In less than 1.5 seconds, I can click a button and generate the bill of materials for that job. You saw it at the show, and I opened it up and showed you it's not just guessing, it's actually an Excel spreadsheet CSV file that's converted, and it shows you down to the count of hanger nails how much stuff that you need based on the decks that you're building in the system. In addition to that, if should the customer say, hey, I'd really like to move forward today, you can toggle a button and in about 3 minutes, build your entire proposal and terms and conditions and get a signature with your finger. The product is built to function tablet first, so it works on your iPad. You could use it on your iPhone, although we don't recommend. The screen's just not really big enough, but you can do all of that in a tablet first situation, or you can do it on the computer, whatever works for you. But it's actually built for the contractor to do this with the homeowner in the field. So it goes right in the center of the process between I now am ready for you to give me a price and I'm ready to sign an agreement. That's what DeckMetriX is for.
Okay. So you're sitting down with the homeowner. I mean, I had a couple questions about like getting the costs together, because you mentioned like costs from lumber yards and stuff. So do you just regularly get updates on that and update the software so that's always updated, and you just have to contact them like how does that work? So I know you can control your your costs internally, but if there's like an external cost, like how does that get updated?
Right. So every contractor goes through what we call an implementation process. Most software does this. So a lot of softwares, they leave it to you, right? Hey, upload all your pricing. And you got to figure out how to do that. And that sometimes can be a nightmare because you might change one product or you might use a different product and you might not think about all those things. But at DeckMetriX, we don't do that to you. Once you sign up to use the software, we start sending you documentation automated. Hey, first I want you to go to your lumberyard and here's a spreadsheet for you to get everything that you need. Here's the kinds of structural materials, hangers, fasteners, and connectors. We actually give you a list in spreadsheet form that you can email over to your lumberyard and have them send back to you. And then we upload that in the back end of the software. Then we sit down with you and we say, okay, what are all the products that you want to include? Are they all on this sheet? Are they not? If the system doesn't already have product, example, TimberTech deck boards or Trex guardrail systems or a Westbury rail or a post wrap from Versatex, then we can upload those things. We have a database management tool that we use in the background, so we can upload all that stuff. And we're building that out now. We're starting to get manufacturers asking to put catalogs and products in the tool. Yeah. But for deck builders, what we've learned is it's pretty specific. A lot of guys live in, I use this manufacturer's product. At Outback, we're TimberTech AZEK guys, so we use a lot of TimberTech AZEK product. And so we only offer TimberTech AZEK and guardrail systems from TimberTech AZEK because we've taught our guys how to position that in the home. But if you're a deck builder and you want Trex in there, it's in there. If you want to put Decorator's product in there, you can. If you need a different product like an Armadillo board or an Everlast board or something that maybe isn't one of the big 3 or 4, it's okay. That stuff's all available to be put in, and we're going to hold your hand and help you do it. Once it's in there, updating is simple. If you get a new price from the lumberyard each month or every 2 weeks, you go into the back end and you just change the price. As soon as you change the price, now it's in the system. Any quote that gets done from that second forward is going to be correct. Labor is the same way. Everybody does labor differently. And so we have a spreadsheet for that. And we sit down and we coach you through, hey, if you want to be accurate with your price, while square foot, linear foot is helpful, what if you have to do 5 posts and 5 footings instead of 3 posts and 3 footings? Right? Square foot, linear foot isn't accounting for that. So if you're putting in 5 or 6 footings and you're doing that, in Chicago, north of the Mason-Dixon line, and you have to dig a 4.5-foot hole and use a screw pile, 2 of those is not cheap. and it begins to erode your margin very quickly as an owner. And so what we've done is we've built this back end of the tool to coach you through how to think about that a little differently and make sure that you are charging both the materials and the labor for everything that you're going to have to do on that job so that you can margin correctly and be profitable as a business. That happens also in the company settings in the back end. In addition to that, there's a logistics area. So a lot of deck builders will forget a dumpster. They might have one in there, but they might need two, or a porta-john, or they do pass through on permitting, but they have to do all the drawings. Are they charging for drawings? Are they not? Are they charging for the time of driving over to drop off the permit, or doing an update, or getting a survey or a site plan, or dealing with all these ancillary things that, we have 47 municipalities we work in. They're all different. You have to have some way of managing those things in the business. DeckMetriX allows you to do that inside the company panel. So once you do implementation and you build all that out with us for you, now your tool is customized to your business.
Yeah.
The proposal is customized to your business. Your terms and conditions are customized to your business. That stuff takes 2, maybe 3 weeks of just working together. We have guys that have done it faster. We have guys that have taken a little longer, but once it's in, it's in. Now you can use the tool and very quickly and efficiently get to price that's very accurate, put a proposal in front of the homeowner and get a yes.
Yeah.
The goal of the tool is to help you get a yes. The goal of the implementation is to partner up with you, bring a little bit of mentoring and perspective, and help you figure out what's going to serve you and your customers well, so that the tool can do what you need it to do in your hands or in the hands of your salespeople, customer facing in your local market.
Gotcha. Okay. So my head's spin. I got all kinds of
Sorry, man,
questions.
that's a lot. I know.
No,
I
it's
know.
good stuff. I got a bunch of questions now. Had some with sales, but I'd like to think I'm more of an operations guy myself. So I want to start with those. But you're talking about the extras for the job. So you're saying you have to do one extra trip to go here or there, like I don't know, maybe you forgot something. You mentioned something like little extra things that get added on the job that people don't really account for because you're just like, oops, whatever.
Right.
Do you like keep track of that, or can you keep track of that in DeckMetriX to be like, okay, this happened on this job, so that way it's saved for the next one, to like account for things you don't normally think of, like that hurts your margins, you know what I mean? Like, is there any things that, like, say, I could see this happening. I mean, you guys have a lot of stuff dialed in, I'm sure, but the average, deck builder, they're not going to think of all those little things, and they're going to price it per square foot. There's going to be all these missing variables. So do you kind of record all these missing things that you learned from one job so that way it can be saved here and then accounted for in the next one so you don't lose that profit?
So I want to have John answer this question because actually Outback is one of my largest customers in DeckMetriX. So and yes, I know I'm a stakeholder in that business, but I don't work in the deck business anymore. I run the software business. So as my customer, John, how would you answer that question? What have we done inside DeckMetriX and with our other tools to help support the issue that Alex is talking about?
Yeah, if I can, let me just as a deck builder, right? Let me give you a quick example because there's probably someone listening that can appreciate a real life example, right?
Sure.
And maybe you're in this spot, it's kind of like phase one as the builder. You go to the lumber yard, you get an estimate, you meet someone, okay, you go to lumber, you get pricing, you come back. You share it with them. They go, okay, I'll think about it. And then, a month and a half or 2 months later, or maybe it's fall now. Maybe in the spring, they call you and go, hey, I'm ready to move forward. And you're like, okay, let's do that. And then you get a contract and then you go back to the lumber yard and you find out that the price is more. And
Yeah.
and are you going to make the decision to go back to the homeowner and say, hey, by the way, it's more? Some people will, some people won't, right? And you end up maybe losing a little bit of margin but you're like, it's okay. It's only $300 or whatever it is, right? Or maybe you're in that phase where you're like, I know my pricing, it's pretty good. I'm going to do square foot, linear foot. And then you go, oh shoot, I forgot to add the extra dumpster in there. Super common, right? The extra dumpster. For us, a dumpster is going to be usually around 350 square feet. of a deck we can demo, and that deck's only 500 square feet, and we just happen to forget that the extra dumpster's needed. And then, you're not going to, in the middle of the job, you go to the homeowner and say, hey, I need an extra dumpster, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe the example is it's your guys working the crew. Brian said extra footing. You have a concrete pad at the bottom of the stairs, and you're thinking, I need a 3x4. That's what the code requires. But the reality is, when you get there, you actually have to dig another 3 inches because of the weight, because of the depth of the pad and the way the stairs need to land, right, to give you rise over run correctly. Not a big deal, but it was $150 of extra, right? A little bit extra concrete, a little bit extra time. And those things begin to steal from your margin, ultimately your profit, right? A little bit
Yep.
here, a little bit there. What we've done on the backside of DeckMetriX is create some of those fundamentals. An example would be, for us, automatically when our guys put in 450 above 450 square feet, an extra dumpster is automatically added in, right?
Cool.
It does the calculation for it. My guy doesn't have to remember that. Another area is, Brian mentioned, we work in a lot of municipalities. We have a municipality that only charges us $200 for a permit, and we've got a municipality that charges us $1,000 for a permit,
Right.
right? And all kinds in between with variables. That's easy to miss, and it's easy to miss an increase, or you think, oh, I think it's in this, but it's actually over here in this municipality. Um, for us, we had to create something replicable that our sales guys could do, and I would speak to that person as well. Maybe you have one sales guy, maybe two, and you're trying to teach them how to estimate correctly. It's one thing for me to be in the business for 10 or 12 or 15 years and do this, and I sort of know. It's a whole nother thing to try and replicate. We can tell you one of the biggest hurdles we had to overcome was teaching someone else how to go estimate a job and estimate it accurately. So some of the things that we've already set up allow that to occur with me going to sleep at night knowing that it's already set up. So how much is a drawing going to cost? We all have to do drawings, right? If I have to do a revision or two, it's dollars. Sometimes you're doing that before you've ever been paid by the customer, right? Um, in our area, we have to have engineering sometimes. Engineer's going to want to stamp that. There's a cost to that. It's very difficult to go back to the customer and say, hey, by the way, I need to add this to the cost. So all of that is on the backside of this, which gives me, and for us, probably the most important thing, the building material list and the accuracy is really tight so that we don't miss anything, both in labor and materials. It protects our profit.
Okay. So those set up as like, I don't know, formulas or something. I mean, is it like, I'm thinking of like that's where I come from, is like a coding background. So, you can say like, if this happens, then do this. Is that's how it's set up to say like in this situation, if it's 450 or more, add a second dumpster. I mean, how is all that, I guess?
Yeah, all that stuff is built in the back end of the tool, right? So the algorithms are already pretty much pre-built. Now, when we set your logistics up and we're dealing with your logistics panel, right? So we call them driveway safe dumpsters. So you see the roll off containers that big trucks drop off and they bang up driveways and crack concrete and scrape things. And we don't do that. We use 20 yards. They pull behind a F250 or F350. We back it into the driveway. It's got tires on it, right? We put wood lumber under it and put chuck blocks at the tires, and then we fill that thing. We know what that thing can handle, square footage of deck, guardrail, stair, et cetera, when guys tear it down. We're not expecting a guy to go and play Tetris and have the thing perfectly stuffed, but we're also not expecting him to grab a 6-foot section of stair and throw it in there sideways on its edge and then not you got to teach and train your guys a little bit in the field how to do things. But we've been doing this long enough to know, what can you expect a dumpster size, 20 yard, 30 yard, 40 yard? What can you expect it's going to handle square footage wise? So we ask you what you use. We have the conversation with you because we're deck builders and we know. And then we put that in there in your tool. Now it's built in, right? So it's gonna do that. There's also a couple of spots in the tool where you can add things like miscellaneous items or additional pricing options for things that you might do all the time. As we continue to do releases and other things, we're adding a lot of things to the software to give the deck builder options and choices. So when we first launched it, it was like, here it's squares and rectangles and let's build decks. And, and then if you're doing this or you're doing that, we just teach you the workarounds. And so we're still doing some of those things, because in software, you have to build something very foundational that you can scale on top of and add things to. If you don't do the right things first and build a wide, strong, solid base of ones and zeros, then you get nothing when you need it in the future. So we went really wide, and we've done a lot of things from a compliance perspective and other things in the tool to help with security, to make sure your pricing and your things are secure and safe where other people can't see it. But in addition to that, we've given you lots of ways to enter the things sort of in a semi-custom way inside the tool. We have all those things in there. We just need to talk through it with you to make sure it's being the boxes are being ticked, so that each time you do a quote, it's using the appropriate algorithm to figure out what those costs are. John, what is the accuracy currently of the tool on bill of materials by percentage? What is it in Outback Deck, and how long did it take to get there?
The front end answer is it's within 1% of accuracy. Briefly, many years ago, we started auditing every job. We have a job costing spreadsheet. We started auditing, hey, where are we? And it was not uncommon when we first began that, we would see, hey, here's what the guy priced it, and here's what we brought the number in at. And there might be a 5% difference, which might equal up to $2,000 in some jobs, right? We worked diligently to bring that down. So when we moved over to the bigger format of what we call DeckMetriX, one of my largest concern was what was going to happen to that, because we were managing that pretty tight, really protecting the bottom line. From the get-go, it was probably within 3%, pretty good. And we figured out what those little tweaks were. Today, it's at 1%. It manages that very, very well. And I'll tell you, when you estimate a job, and again, we've got 8 guys doing it. When my guys estimate a job, if they follow the little formula, it's, hey, does it have this? Yes. Does it need this? Yes. And their square footage of the deck calculation is correct. It comes in dialed in almost exact every time. And that is amazing to be able to know that the profit is protected.
Yeah. I mean, just think of the peace of mind you'd have, just knowing that you have something accurate there. And at the end of the day, it's going to be something you can rely on too long term, and a lot less work once you take that time to set it up. And I like the idea of this too, because I feel like it's extremely rare to have something just for decks. I know you guys might go in other stuff eventually, but it's literally called DeckMetriX. So like anybody that's on the decking side, you're literally, I feel like it's a huge benefit to say, not only is this from DeckMetriX, but it was built from one of the most reputable deck companies in the US that I know of, and from people that have been through all these things. So I would think when you get set up, there's a lot of like little variables and stuff that you guys ask. And like you said, check off those different boxes. Probably a good chance there's some things in there that the average deck builder has never even heard of. So like, as you get started, I would imagine you have a pretty good foundation of things that, are pretty much covered. And then I'm sure there's always going to be the case where maybe a business does things a little bit differently, or like you said, different cities that you work in, different permit processing, all that stuff. But I don't know, that would give me a lot of comfort, I guess, for lack of a better term, knowing that you would kind of start knowing that the software was built from somebody that has already figured out a lot, it's already doing a lot of stuff in the decking space. So
yeah, and there's a lot of things that the tool can't do, like right this minute, right? So, we're building blocks and pieces to get to where we're trying to go, and we're adding a lot of things, right? So we're in meetings with our dev team and the staff to try to make sure that we're adding new opportunities and new things to the tool. So, if you are a really high level custom deck builder, think Raven deck builders in the Rhode Island area, or Jason Russell, Dr. Dex, right? Some of these guys that do just incredible projects. I think I was listening to the podcast just the other day, and you had Sean McAleer on there, and Sean and I have known each other a long time. And I mean, those kind of projects, DeckMetriX wasn't built for that, right? So DeckMetriX was built for guys who want to run deck projects. They want to run a lot of deck projects. They want to grow the business. If you want to build a porch in DeckMetriX right now, it can't do that. It's not built right now to make roofs, but we've done some workarounds in Outback. We've created some standard porch designs and other things like that have good, better, best, and bestest pricing. So there's standard sizes. They have lots of options. There's lots of ways to do it. And if it will fit on the back of the house, sit up on the roof a certain way, or fit to the back of the house, we drop those into DeckMetriX, and the guys can use those to go price porches, right? And we do a lot of big projects, 150, 200, 250, $300,000 outdoor projects in Outback. The tool wasn't really built for that, but we really didn't have a way to price a job like 40, 50, 60, $70,000 for a screen porch. Now we do. And the tool gave us sort of the idea to simplify even the porch process to something more standardized. The sunroom industry did this 30 years ago, right? So we just took a play from their playbook and turned it into a play for deck, and it works. We started that in the fourth quarter last year. I think we've sold 40 of those jobs in the first 9 months of this year, and we'd never done it before. If that average job is $50,000 or $60,000, guys, that's $2.5 million of additional revenue that we didn't have, that we now have.
Yeah.
That is a big shot in the arm if you're trying to build a business, especially when you can guarantee it's profitable by fixing the margin. DeckMetriX, one of the big things it offers, guys, if you're listening, markup or margin are available to you in this tool. You can control the percentage that you want to make in DeckMetriX, and it applies it to everything else that's in your panel. Logistics, labor, materials. If you want to do monthly payments, that's in there. You add all those things, and it's making sure that you are making the money on every single job that you want to be making. It doesn't fail to do that. It's absolute. So if you want to be a deck builder and you want to increase your profitability by selling more jobs and making more money, you now have a way to do that with a tool that really didn't exist in the market until we built it. We know because we looked for years and years and years, and we tried lots of different products, and nothing could do all of those things. We built this thing for you guys. We built it for us, and we built it for you because we know you need it. We want you to succeed, and we built the contractor classroom to ensure that you succeed. I can't hold your hand all day, every day, and make sure that you are running the business the way you need to run your business. But I certainly am happy to come around you and mentor and help and shape you to help you build the company that you want to have and get your life back. Most of us were on the hammer. I was on the hammer. John was on the hammer. We know what it's like to work 70, 80, 90, 100 hours a week and not be making the kind of money we want to make and not have the life we want to have. Some of you guys out there have a good life and you've done a good job, but there's a lot of guys out there that don't know how to do that, and they don't have the money to go and figure it out. If you're in DeckMetriX and you're paying to use our tool, we give you Contractor Classroom for free. So you get my brain and John's brain and the brain of our director of sales and our director of operations and our production management team, and our marketing people. You get all those people and their brains. We have video content. We have webinar series that we do. We do some one-on-one coaching if you want to be in that. We have all those things that we do. Not all that stuff is free, but the part you really need to get your sales organization and marketing stuff shifted and correct is included with your DeckMetriX subscription. It's a monthly subscription. There's an annual fee that comes with it and the implementation, which you do one time. But we're here for you. We didn't build this just for us. We built it because the industry needs it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I want to touch on that too, the contractor classroom a little bit more. But I just have one question about the sales, so like people can understand, because we talked about the operations quite a bit, but how did it boost sales when you started doing the one call close and
Mhm.
using this, and gives people some perspective, because I don't know many people that do a one call close. I mean, I can think of maybe two. So
Yeah.
just curious how that works.
So I'm going to ask some leading questions for John to help through this because we did this together, right? So John, typically in in-home sales, how many sales processes are there out there available?
Yeah, well, there's a lot, and what we've learned is that everyone has their own, right?
That's
And
right.
consistency of that is far and few, right? It's not often, even sometimes within your own company, you may have multiple sales processes.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we first started working together, we got involved with an organization called Certified Contractors Network, and they had a sales system. Why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about, what that process was like, and then, what started to happen that sort of was the impetus for us to change that.
Yep, CCN, as it's referred to in the industry, they have an amazing system. What more than anything it was able to do is teach us how to sell value so that we could raise our price, right? And really have the consumer pay us what the job was really worth and what it was going to take to service the account and any warranty that might come up later on down the road. And their system. They call it the 5 Ps, and they teach you how to break down a sales process and talk about the people, right? Talk about the process, talk about the price. You break all that down in a very systematic, usually with pictures, and then you do what's called the measure call. You come back, you make the presentation after you pull it all together, and then so we lived in that for a long time. We call that the two-step, right? Which is very common in the industry. I'm gonna go out, bring it. And then when we went to one sit, it's not common. We couldn't really find anybody in the industry who we could lean on to say, "Hey, how do you do this inside deck in the deck industry?" So we went and found a couple of mentors outside in the window industry, in the siding industry, and say, "Hey, can you help us figure out how we do this?" And it took a little bit of time. Took a little bit of time.
So John, what was the real push behind switching from the two-step, because our CCN process was really effective in helping us to grow the company from $1.5 million, $2 million to $6 million, but we really weren't able to get past that. So what happened and why did we make the change?
Well, we would call we had this little rate that we followed, which is the first appointment to second appointment, or measure call to presentation, right? And you would follow that. And think of it this way: I go out and I see the customer. That's my first appointment, and then I need to get back in front of them to make a presentation. And a really good statistic out there was you would want to do that somewhere between 75 and 80% of the time. So maybe you would go out and someone would go, you would actually talk to them and they go, well, you know, I want to meet with you. It's good. I need to get my spouse involved. And then you could never sort of get back with them and that would fall off. Um, or they just really want your customer, that kind of thing. Um, and so, maybe 2 out of 10 would do that. You would stay up. Well, what we saw is our measure called a second appointment rate fell off to 50%. We were only getting in front of half the people we ever saw. And our sales guys were, more importantly, only getting in front of that. And it was devastating. And then, as I shared earlier, COVID came along, and then no one wanted us to come back. Not one person wanted us to come back for the second visit. And we had to
Hmm.
solve the issue.
Why was that? I'm just curious. Like, why did nobody, just because of all the, I mean, sickness? They were just worried about that, or yeah, okay.
I mean, I think that
Yeah.
was part of it. I think the other part is, over the last probably 5 to maybe as much as 10 years, but really the last 5 or 6 years, buying habits of consumers have changed. And so, when you can click on something on Amazon and it shows up at your house an hour to 2 hours, 3 hours later, and you do that a fair amount, and you can Instacart your food to your house. And I mean, you
Yep.
can literally we live in an instant culture, an
Yep.
instant culture of gratification, an instant culture of, if I want it, I can get it, and I can get it for a reasonable cost. The consumer's mentality started to change. Well, if I can buy a car online for $50,000, how come I can't get a deck?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're thinking that. Listen, if you might be sitting here right now on this podcast thinking, I don't believe that. I would challenge that mindset that you have right now. Stop for a minute and just think how many things you can now purchase very quickly without having to see somebody's face.
Yeah.
And what do they cost? I mean, for crying out loud, OfferPad lets you do that with a house. You don't have to go 200, 300, 800, $1 million. This is what's happening with the American culture of buying habits. So we as an industry, we don't have any systems in a lot of cases for how to manage that. You know, as a marketing guy, Alex, leads are hard to come by. They're way more expensive than they used to be. I can't afford not to put a price in front of a homeowner if I'm trying to run a good business, because if it costs me $500 or $600 to get a lead, I can't buy 10 of those and not get a job, right? I can't spend $5,000, $6,000 and not get jobs. I have to give the price to every single customer. If you don't hear anything from John and I and Alex sitting on this podcast today, I want you to hear this. You must learn how to give the price to your consumer at the house. You must have a way to do that that's accurate and protects your bottom line and your margin. If you can't do that today, you're going to start to see things change in your business, not for the good. Not for the good. Either you're a design build guy and you have a process for that, or you need to be able to give the price. It's incumbent upon us as the owners of the businesses, as the deck builders, as the guys who are leading the organizations to recognize that the buyers have changed the way they do things. COVID was a big part of that, but it was already happening before then. People's time is valuable, the same as your time is valuable. You might be thinking, wow, if Brian could get me to price in 5 minutes and it's accurate and it's taken me 3 hours to do it, I want to talk to him about that tool. I think that's a good way to think about it. Think about your consumer. Do you think they want to give you 3 or 4 hours of their time, or is their time as valuable as yours? They have families. They have a job. They may run a business. They may do things at their church. They may need to go to choir practice on Wednesday, or they may need to play pickleball on Tuesday night, right? Or they may go to the game and have season tickets. Their time is incredibly valuable. You need to understand that. You need to understand that the consumer is expecting you, when they pick up the phone and call you, they're expecting you to give them a price in person and tell them why they should buy from you.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They don't want you to email it to them. They don't want you to give them a price over the phone and tell them I'll only do it if. That's not what they want. They called you because they saw something online, heard something from a friend, or read a review that said to them, I want to meet this person at my house, so I'm going to invite them here. That's what a lead is. It's an invitation to serve somebody. You need to think about that if you're listening to the podcast differently. Now I'm helping Alex because he's helping me, right? He's a marketing guy. He's helping you generate leads. Those people want to meet with you. They need your help. You cannot do that by making everybody jump through hoops. You need to go and help them, right? If you can't do that quickly, change your process. Don't expect the homeowner to change theirs.
Yeah, they're not going back. They're not going back to the harder ways.
They are not. I'm shaking my head. They are not going back, guys.
Yeah.
They're not. And it's you who has to change, not them. You need to give the customer what they want. They're the ones who want to write the check. That doesn't mean you got to do it their way. It's okay to go out and position the way that you do it, and the need for them to follow that process. That's important. We do that at Outback all day, every day. This is our process. This is why, because this is how we get you the best result and deliver value. This is what we do and why we do it. But you can't do that in email, and you can't do that in a 5-minute phone call, and you can't do that in a 15 or 20-minute site visit where you're just trying to make sure you can see if the thing's going to fit on the back of the house.
Yeah.
You need to be better at building value and helping the customer. That's what Contractor Classroom is. And that's what DeckMetriX allows you to do.
Yeah. I mean, what an opportunity to stand out too. I mean, nobody's doing this. So, I mean, if you're able to do this and be one of the first people, I mean, I think you said Deck Expo was like the big launch when everything, that was like the big coming out party. So, I mean,
That's right.
yeah, nobody's really using this, and nobody's really doing once call closes. And I mean, we speak to deck builders every day, usually multiple deck builders a day that call us for help or whatnot. So, we know what people are doing, and I don't really, I said two earlier, but now I can just be one person I've ever seen do like a one call close. So I think it's a great opportunity to kind of improve your business and stand out. And I mean, like I said, it's really just playing to what people want. I mean, I'll admit I am definitely impatient about things. I mean, I want things now, just like you said, Amazon. If I'm going to another website and it takes 4 days, 5 days, I'm like, oh, let me see what Amazon's got. Like I want it in 2 days. And that's where everybody's going. So now this was amazing, guys. And I think everybody that's listened here just got a tremendous amount of value. And usually I ask for like some closing statements, but honestly, you kind of did a good closing right there. And I think that was perfect. And I really want to be conscious of your time as well too. But
well, let me give you one more closing
Sure.
statement, right, guys?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I'm what they call like I guess call it an evangelizing innovator, right? Like my personality is I want to get you excited about things, and I want to help you make changes that are going to be positive for your life and your business. That's a part of who we are as organizations, right? But I also want you to have the tools. Like you're a deck builder. I know that you now have, used to swing a hammer, right? But a lot of you guys are using nail guns, right? This is no different.
Yeah.
Right? To give you an analogy that makes sense to you, now you don't use old-fashioned screwdrivers a whole lot. You use a drill gun, right? You don't use hammers as much as you used to. You use pneumatic tools, right? You have things that now dig holes for you. When I was a kid in New York, I had to dig the 4-foot hole, right? We didn't have a 2-man auger at the time. Right? I'm a little older than a lot of guys. I get it, right? But I want you guys to know that it's just a tool, and we can help you learn how to use it effectively in your business for good. Just like all the other new tools that you're using in your business are helping you to be more efficient and do a better job. It's a tool. And we, as the quote unquote manufacturer of the tool, actually come alongside you and help you with it. So because I want to make sure that you can do this and do it well, the website is DeckMetriX.com, DeckMetrix, DeckMetriX.com. Alex will probably have a way for you to see that.
Yep.
But I have a little gift for you guys. If you come and you listen to the show, you tell us that you heard about it on the show, and we've got a little something that we're going to do for you guys to help you along the path. So you can go to the website, you can see the cost of the tools, you can see Contractor Classroom out there as well, and drop that down and see what that all offers. All that stuff is available for you on the website, and you can click on the site and book a live demo where we will take you through the tool and spend 30 or 40 minutes with you to do a little bit of analysis on your business, figure out what's ailing you, what you're trying to solve, and see if the tool can help you. It's not a sales call. It's actually a strategy session, right? So yes, we would love you to use the tool. Yes, we would love to have you as a user, of course. Right? We can't get better if we don't have those. But it's strategy to help you see if this tool will make your business better, right? And make you better. So
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian, you definitely do a good job of, getting excited about something or getting people excited about it. It's funny. I was talking, I told my wife, and I was like, yeah, just talk to Brian over there and about DeckMetriX. I'm not even a contractor. And I was like, I might just have to buy the software, even though I can't use it.
Yeah, I'm really passionate because, I know what it's like. If you guys could see my face right now, you'd see that I have tears coming to my eyes because I know what it's like to be a deck builder who doesn't have the tools he needs, who doesn't have the systems and processes in place, who's not making enough money, who's bleeding margin every day, who's overbuying materials or buying the wrong things or not having stuff show up or getting frustrated with his vendors because this, that, or the other. I lived those things for decades. You don't have to. We're here for you. You do not have to live there anymore. Just let us help you. If you don't want to use the tool, we will still help you. You can come alongside us, call us. I'll give you my direct cell phone number. John will give you his direct cell phone number. We know what it's like, guys. We're here for you. That's why we're so passionate, right? Because it doesn't need to be that way. The industry needs some leaders to change this side of the business. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Yeah. What an opportunity to everyone listening. I mean, if you guys are having any issues with this, I mean, I think most people have this issue. So, I mean, reach out like Brian was saying, check out DeckMetriX and, can't lose anything by just talking with them and, seeing what they got and how they can help. So, but I appreciate it, guys. I mean, it really was a great episode, and it had my mind spinning, like I said, even though I'm not a contractor, but ways that we could help our clients. And now I'm going to be probably saying one step close quite a lot to everybody. But
hey, if you want to have us back to talk about those kind of things, man,
yeah,
like if
I was
we
thinking
will,
that. I feel like
we can
could dig into
talk, we
this
can
more,
bring
yeah.
our marketing guys in and talk marketing. We can bring our sales management team in and talk about how to put this thing in place, objection handling, all these kinds of things, right? We do them every day in the business. We do leadership development. We're an EOS type company here. So we run EOS. So we do leadership development. We got lots of good guys and people that we know that we can invite to be a part of it. And you can get insights from some of the masters of some of these things in home improvement. We have all those guys as stables and mentors in our lives. You need us, you need them. So let us know how we can help. We're here for you.
Yeah, I would love that. And we'll have to talk about that. Because I know we're just kind of scratching the surface here and, have limited time. So, but yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I really do. It was, great meeting you in person and great having you on here so everybody can kind of hear this knowledge too. So, but, going forward with the Fence and Deck Mastery podcast, we're finally back on track with our episodes and doing our weekly podcast. So, we actually brought in another person to help on that side of it. So, to keep that consistency and keep, really good interviews coming like this and bringing on new exciting guests, stuff like that. So feel free to rate and subscribe for the podcast. So we can, get our rankings up and all that fun stuff. But yeah, that's about it. Oh, and the last thing, if it's getting towards that time, really it is at that time where you're kind of preparing for, the holidays, and then the spring season will be here before we know it. So if you have questions about your marketing, reach out to us, deckfencemarketers.com. We're on all the socials. There's all kinds of stuff there. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you. And again, thanks, Brian and John, for hopping on here. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again soon and, provide more value to everybody.